So we just, I'll just do a little recap of whatever we have done. If you see that when we are doing a salary survey, we have to take into consideration, as I said, the size of the, at an organizational level, the size, nature of business, industry sector, demography, competitiveness, we talked about. Then we need to do the evaluation part, taking into consideration knowledge, experience, the entire job description. Then we have to do the equivalence. We talked about equivalence, that is equalizing, comparing positions like apples to apples. So when we want to do the equivalence, equaling the positions, then what are some of the things we need to keep in mind or bear in mind? Job descriptions, tasks and responsibilities, the level of complexity, span of control, even the organizational structure, etc. So these are some of the things we need to take into consideration. Okay. So now there's a very interesting some of the what we call it as, I would say as analytics part in compensation we talk about. When we talk about it, we need to understand there's a measure called comp ratio. Has anybody heard of a comp ratio? Anybody? Comp ratio? Has anybody heard of comp ratio, guys? Yes, no? Huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What is it? Comp ratio. So obviously it's a ratio between what and what. Tell me. Just let me go quickly to a, yeah. When we talk about a comp ratio, what is it? Quick.
So it's the ratio between the salary, what the salary position is earning versus what the market is paying for that position.
Okay. Anybody else wants to take a, yeah? Anybody else? What did you say? Was it Pratishruti who said that? Tell me what.
So, for example, if a position is earning, say, 75 rupees in the company and market is paying for that position as 100 rupees, so comp ratio will be 75 upon 100, which is 75%.
Okay, but essentially, when we say comp ratio, what we mean is that, say for example, I'm using a very simple, sorry. Right now, and I'm using something like pay band 8,000. All right, this will be your min, and 12,000. Okay, this will be your max. Okay, what will be the midpoint here? It will be how much? What will be the midpoint?
10,000.
Okay, so I can also have something like so the midpoint will be somewhere here. Sorry, I'll do this. This will be midpoint, and then right now. So I can also still have some here. I can have 9,000, right? And then I can have here 11,000, right? Now, say for example, this is a pay band with 8,000 to 12,000 min and max, with a midpoint 10,000, with a midpoint or a median which is 10,000. Now, J's base salary is 9,000. Okay, base. So when I say comp ratio, that means the comp ratio is calculated as a ratio such as base. So base salary is how much? Base, which is how much?
9,000.
All right. Divided by how much? The midpoint of that band. Equal to, so how much will it be?
90%.
90%.
It will be 90%, right? So if I have 11,000, what will it be? It will be
110%.
now. Tell me. I'll also put at 12,000. It will be 120. There are three people. Pratishuta is at 90%, same HR job, and Shankar is at 110%, and Jay is at 120%. So who is at a higher salary? Who's at a higher salary?
120%.
The person with 120% is at a higher salary. Okay. Now, if I have all three people at 120%, that means all three people are at a
Higher salary.
higher salary. For example, if my comp ratios are showing that all three people in that particular band are at 120%, what will happen to the wage cost? As opposed to 90, 110 and 120, which is higher?
All three at
All three at
120%.
120. Now, so when I'm recruiting, will I have everybody at a 120%? So what I will do, comp ratios help me to determine a recruitment policy as to if I have to recruit people, I will take a policy, I will recruit people typically at a 90% comp ratio. Because if I recruit everybody at 120%, which is the maximum, that means I'm bringing that guy at a very high wage cost. And next year, where will I send him? I have to promote him. Or a bright guy, I'll have to give no increment and then put a stop to his increment and give him only performance bonus. So comp ratios help us to understand where people are, whether it is in the present, or to decide on a recruitment policy so that I can keep my wage cost balancing. Okay, so that people with lesser experience, I will recruit at a very low comp ratio so that I will train them, and then all along I can actually build them and also then keep going. They can spend 3 or 4 years in that particular band. Even promotion policy, I will have a comp ratio that I won't promote anybody, at more than 120 or 110. So I can also below that, no. So I can have a comp. So comp ratios help us to balance the wage cost. Now, typically you have experienced in most of the organizations during annual increment, what will they do? They will calculate comp ratios of all the employees before giving increment. Why? For example, there is Jay and there is Pratishuti who are in the same role and have got a same performance rating of 4. But Pratishuti is at 120% and Jay is at 90%. What will I do then? I will give a lower increment to person with 120% and a higher increment to person with the 90%. Why? Because they are doing the similar jobs. As per the internal equity fairness, people with the similar job should have similar salaries. But why is with similar experience, everything, why is the difference so much in comp ratio? So then I will try to bring this person closer here, which is called salary compression, because at that point of time, without any market correction, I might have taken a person at a much lower salary. But today, with market, I'm taking people at a higher salary. Then I'm not doing any market correction. So it is time I do market correction. So I will. So comp ratios also give me an indication of whether people are having internal equity or not. Shankar, have you understood comp ratios?
Yeah, so basically comp ratio is for within the grid that I've already made in the organization for a role.
Great.
And on that, where am I? And
where are you?
Yeah,
if you are in grade 4, grade 3. Now, you may say, but what is the point? Why? It's very, very important to know comp ratios for an organization, because you can calculate comp ratio at a individual level, at a unit level, at a band level, at an organization level. Higher the comp ratio, that means you are having people who are actually sitting on higher wages. So whenever you are recruiting, then you will have to understand, hey, I can't get people, because if all your people are this side beyond the midpoint, that means already they are at the end of all their max. It is not a good strategy at all. Right?
One question, ma'am.
So typically a 60-40 ratio is a very good. That means people should be here 60 and here 40. Before the midpoint for 60 and after the midpoint 60. That's why typically if you're taking a person in a team and all, project and all, you will see if everybody is at a high comp ratio, that means the project will become very expensive. You need people a combination, right?
One question, ma'am.
Yeah.
When we were looking at our pay policy, which is like lead, lag, or lead, lag, or par. So that particular point is what? It's a midpoint, or it's a where is it on this particular grid?
So typically when you are looking at a lead, lag, or on par, you're always looking, if you look at this
Midpoint, okay.
Midpoint only.
Okay. So let's say if my policy, pay policy is, it's a lead policy, 75%.
That means then you will know, then you will look at whether you want to increase it by 10% over and above the midpoint or 20% over and above the midpoint. So then what will happen? Sorry. That's a good question so that you know exactly. Why? Okay. Okay, X and Y, this is Y, huh? Y is your market data and X is your job points, and okay. All of you have done this, okay? Now, this is your pay line. This is your midpoint data. Now, let me give you a I can also have 10% increase. So what will I do? Where am I getting? Okay. Why? Okay. So I will draw one. So I can have a line like this. Sorry. Huh? Then I can also have lesser than this. Are you getting me? So what does it mean? For some positions, I can have lesser than this. For some positions, I can have higher than this. Are you with me? So with the data, if you draw a line, this will give you a lead and this will give you a lag. Or maybe you have some position. You can also draw a line. Maybe this is your present, you are here. Okay. But you want to be now here. Sorry. Got it? So you will have a data, you can plot it and it will clearly give you that. Okay, guys?
So ma'am, this 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 till 12 are salaries across organization and we reach a midpoint, right?
No. Can I, no. So what I gave you 8,000 to 12,000 is one band, 8 to 12,000.
For a position.
It could be one position or it could be two positions, but it is it's a band. Okay, so I'll just show you 1 second. Let me stop sharing and I will go back to that screen. Okay. So when you look at this, okay. Are you able to see this? Now, this is your, can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
Now, when you are building your, bands, grade 1, grade 3. So you are trying to then give us range to your bands, right? Pay range. Now, depending on your low, middle and top, you can have a pay range of plus minus 15 at a lower level, and at a higher level, you can also have plus minus 30 to 40. What did I say? Plus minus 30 to 40. That means from the midpoint, maximum will become plus 30 or 40, and from the midpoint below, that is minimum, will become minus 30 or 40. Are you very clear? Can I have your thumbs, guys? Thumbs up. So clearly, if you see this diagram, the grade, midpoint, maximum and minimum. This image will show you very, very clearly that if these are your various wage points and you have done your pay line, how you can create or design or establish your pay line depending on your pay policy. Shankar, you have a question, tell me. Even Jay has a question. Yeah.
No, the earlier one only, ma'am, wherein, like, as I said, we have a policy now wherein I want to lead the market. I want to be at 75th percentile.
For which position, right?
Let's say for a specific position, let's say head of a department. Okay,
Right.
fine. Head of, let's say head of finance.
Right.
So my pay policy is like I will be at 75th percentile. When I come back internally, I have a pay grade, right? Min, max and mid. So that percentile actually sits where? Is it a mid or is it the max?
No, no. So for that position, you will typically take the midpoint.
Okay.
And check with the midpoint of your data.
Okay.
Because your data also will give you 50th percentile, 75th percentile, etc. Right?
Okay.
So you're looking at a midpoint and then you will say, okay, now midpoint is your controlling point. You getting me? So midpoint is supposed to be the controlling point in a salary survey. So you will shift that midpoint from that X to X plus 1 or X plus 2 based on wherever you want to be. Is that clear now?
Fine. Okay.
Yes, Leena?
No, ma'am. I am yet struggling to understand what data are we referring to? External data, right? Or internal?
No. Internal, when we are taking salary data, we are talking about external data, Leena. Right? Now, external data will be readable only when you put it into a percentile. Right? Now you will collect different sets of data for low, top, middle, or different kind of data for different positions.
Yes.
Now Shankar's question was, yes, ma'am, I got it. Like it is readable, your market data, 50th, 60th, 70th, 80th percentile. But in my organization, for my HR manager, he's at a particular band and he'll have one min and max. Now which to compare? Am I right there?
Yeah.
So the comparing point is your midpoint. Because your comparing point is a midpoint, your range is depending on whether it is plus minus 10% or whether it is plus minus 20%. Got it? You are increasing, so you are increasing the midpoint of your current one into the new one. The new one, which is a 50th percentile. So I know what you're trying to say that, but it is 50th percentile, ma'am. No, at a 50th percentile also, that's the midpoint. At a 75th percentile also, that's the midpoint. Got it?
Okay.
For example, for X data, I have say 10 lakhs in my, I'm paying for an HR manager, Shankar is getting HR manager is 10 lakhs. But in the market data, it is showing about 12.5 lakhs at a say 75th percentile. Okay. That means my salary, which is 10 lakhs, which is again at a midpoint, is lesser than the market. 75th percentile. If I want to be at a 75th percentile, that means the HR manager's salary from midpoint 10, it has to be shifted to 12.5. Okay.
Okay.
You are not shifting for the Shankar or Leena. You are only shifting the
Mhm.
creating structures. You are
Okay,
creating
got
position.
it. Okay, okay.
Okay.
So it can move anywhere on the entire grid. It could go lower also, it could go higher also.
Absolutely.
Depending.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
And I have one question. So, for any organization,
Yes, dear.
midpoint can be 50th percentile or a 75th percentile also. It
No,
is
no,
not
no.
necessary.
When I say median, midpoint, as per statistics, okay, there is something called mean, there is something called midpoint or median, and there is something called mode. Okay. So when we do salary and when people are collecting data, we typically don't collect mean. Why? For
Outliers will.
example, if 4 of you are there, mean does not take into consideration outliers. What are outliers?
Absolutely.
Nothing but if you are getting 10,000, Shankar is getting 12,000, Pratish is getting 15,000, but Leena is getting 50,000. But if I calculate the average, it will be between, say, something like 20, but it is very high. That mean does not represent that person's salary of 10 or 12,000 because she's only one person who's getting 50,000. She's an outlier. But when I'm saying midpoint or median, typically a median or a midpoint, how do you calculate midpoint or a median? Simple statistics. Very easy to calculate. Okay.
The lowest plus highest by 2.
Say, for example, I have, it's important to just understand. Say, I have numbers like 2, okay, and 7, 4, 6, and 9, okay, 10, and also 5 and 3, okay. Say for how many numbers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll add one more, just for that. 8, okay. What do I do first of all? You can't get,
Add all.
this is the array of data. You have to either put them into ascending or descending order.
Sorting.
Okay. So quickly,
Yeah, sorting.
so I have to do the sorting. So 2, then what will I do?
4,
3,
6,
3,
3, then
4,
4, right?
5,
4 is there. How many 4s
Yeah.
are there? Okay.
6,
1,
5,
5,
okay. Then
6, 7,
yeah, 6. Then
6, 7,
okay. Then 7. Then
8, 9, 10.
Then 8, 8, and then again 9. I guess 9 is the 9,
9
and
and 10.
then again 10.
10.
What will you do next? How many numbers are there? 1,
Number of
2,
observations.
3, 4, 5, 6,
6 is
8
the
are there.
9.
8,
Yeah. What will you
add
do?
and divide by 2. Or
The
divide by
formula
8.
is
midpoint.
n plus
Add,
Plus 1
add summation of all divided by 8.
and plus 1 divided by number of
this is the formula. So n is how much? 9. What is n? N is the number of items. Okay.
right.
Then plus 1. So how much is it equal to? 10. Okay. Now this divided by which will be equal to
5.
So what will you do? 5 is not the number.
6 is the midpoint.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 6 is your midpoint.
Midpoint.
Simple. Midpoint is nothing so technical here. That means equal numbers upar, niche. Got it?
Hmm.
It's a statistical term with equal number up and below. So you will have equal number up and below. That's so simple as that. Okay. What is mode?
Maximum
Appearing
number.
number.
Mode. Do you have a mode here? Actually, no.
No, there is no mode.
Mode is if I had 3, 3, 3 representing 4 or 5 times, the number which represent maximum. So that is called the mode. Okay. All right, let's get back to the original presentation quickly because I need to do something now. Okay. So now we are shifting gears, guys. So is this very clear? Huh? Okay. Now let us just quickly go to, there will be some assignment for you to do. Huh? Now let us come to individual equity. Okay. So what is individual equity? When we say individual equity, that means, when two employees are doing the same job in an organization, for example, two cashiers doing the same job, if one cashier has to travel a lot somewhere over and above job description, what is that extra am I paying? So what we call it as variable pay, over and above what you are doing, over and above the brief you are given, the job description. So in my last session, I talked about that there are 4 kinds of variable pays. Anybody remembers that? Quick. Anybody who remembers 4 kinds of variable pays?
Performance-based pay.
Okay. So essentially, when we're talking about performance, okay, then hardship, okay, they come in one category. Then merit pay, merit, and then hot skill. Hot skill is also called, what is it?
Niche skill for which you're paying.
Critical or new skills, difficult in market.
Okay. Now, essentially, when we are talking about variable pay, I would be talking about performance, but a quick recap about hardship. Hardship is what you are paying for anything. You're doing like a night shift, or crane allowance, etc. Merit is being paid for both what? I talked about that day. What is it?
Cross skill.
Cross skill and
Upskill.
and also upskill. Somebody said upskill. Good. So what is cross skill? Quickly, that means you want to have a person trained in different skills, multi skilling, which is called, which helps in attrition, turnover, absenteeism, etc. For example, in a manufacturing organization, if a person you're hiring for a fitter, you'll say, hey, if you also, skills which actually form a kind of a basket. So say if you also get a welder, then you get an additional incentive. Cross skilling, okay, it helps. What is upskilling? Say for example, I join as a say for example an account executive, and there is some kind of a career journey for him, career mapping, to see him as a accounts manager. Now you need to have certain certifications, certain skills. So every time in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, so I'm drawing a journey. Say there you are saying, if you are going to get these skills in the 3 to 4 years or 5 years, you get additional incentives, and also then you get a promotion. That means upskilling a person. So for your top performers, upskilling is very important because that's used as a retention tool. So I know exactly if I perform well, I get certifications, then I'm going to really be promoted in the next 3 years or 4 years. I can see where I can actually reach. Very clear? Upskilling. Now, what is hot skill or market linked retention incentive? That is in, market is so dynamic. There are certain technologies which become very hot. And how do they become hot? When the demand for them is very high and the supply becomes less. Then what do? You become cognizant of the fact. So typically every year, I'm sure some of you who are in IT organizations will realize that you will identify, hey, through your market intelligence, etc., that these are the list of technologies which are hot this year or for the next 2-3 years, because there are a lot of other shops which are coming up. They might poach your talent. So it's used as a retention tool, and you will give them for those 2 years or 3 years hot skill bonus or an allowance. But say, for example, why am I not adding it into their base salary? Anybody?
Because then it will become part of the salary forever, and then we have to give increment on that as well.
Your wage cost will increase. If tomorrow it may not be anymore hot.
Relevant, yeah.
Then what will happen? You can't retrace back again. You can't say, hey, I'm going to give you. Likewise, for example, even a hardship, it is given as an allowance or a bonus, because if tomorrow you're going to be in the day shift, you can't say, no, I'm not going to give. It's a different aspect. If the entire organization is working in the night shift, then you allocate everything into the base salary. That's a different thing. Okay, very clear. So now when we are talking about individual equity, we will talk essentially at performance. Okay, now you tell me for performance, what kind of, it can be at a individual level, right? It can be at a
Team level.
And it can be at a unit level or a departmental level or at a location level. Okay, and it can also be at an organization level. Now, typically at an individual level, we call them as incentive plans, right? At a team level, team incentives. Okay, at a location level, you can also have something called, that day I talked about.
Gain sharing.
I'm sure most of the manufacturing organizations are very familiar with it. Essentially, what is gain sharing? That means month on month, you fix a kind of a productivity index, comparing it to the benchmarks, etc. Over and above whatever you get, then it is shared across the location. What is the benefit of it? Why do they have gain sharing? It motivates people, right? Yeah. They will also have 3-4 metrics attached to it. What are some of the metrics, or what are some of the SLAs which can be attached to gain sharing?
Losses
Stage
or
control.
lesser accidents, if it is a.
If depending on the organization, okay. Typically, cost will be what? Risk, what is the raw material, right? Then quality. What will happen if I make numbers, but the quality guy will say, oh my god, 10 to 15%. That means if I reduce that reworking, then what else can be coming? Somebody said very
Wastage control for operational efficiency.
So you can also have a wastage index. Absolutely. Right? And then ultimately, of course, productivity. Okay. Gain share. And sometimes you also have, for example, project allowances. If you finish your project on time, within that, you either get it or you don't get it. This is called project allowance, right? Okay. At an organization level, what do you have?
Profit sharing.
Now, this profit sharing depends on how much profit you have made. So this year I may get less, next year. So there's nothing like I'm going to get this. It varies depending on how much the organization has made profits, and then out of it, 5%, 10%, 15% is then divided across all the levels, across all the employees with respect to certain percentage of their base salary. Okay. Now, when you talk about individual performance, let us talk a little more about this individual performance. That is what is very important. What happens typically at an individual level? What is the classic example you can give?
Performance-based incentives.
Absolutely. One is called the
Sales.
Or sales growth.
Right? When an incentive, typically where there is a direct targets, production, no, operations where there you can quantify. You can quantify, there you can have incentive plans. But have you noticed in most of the organization, when it comes to HR, when it comes to finance, they'll say, why are you actually giving us 10% variable, 15% variable, right? So wherever the elasticity of the job is not much, you cannot give higher percentage of variable. Are you with me? So if you are giving a variable pay high, but there is no elasticity in the performance, will it be logical to give an HR person 30% of his salary as variable? Because there's no scope. For example, for a salesperson who's actually in a small grocery store, okay, right from morning till evening, he sells 100 units. Now, if I'm going to get another person who's very good, even if he's going to be selling from morning till evening and is very good, at best, how much can he increase? 20% or 30%. There is not much of elasticity in that job because he can't make more. But whereas for an insurance person, a poor insurance guy will only sell 100 units, but an excellent guy can sell 500 units. So as an HR person, I should first of all know when I'm designing an incentive plan, before even designing, whether there is scope for the person to make incentive. That's the point I'm trying to get. Dina, you have a question? Did I send that message across? Many of us will design an incentive plan and it will fail. Why did it fail? Because there is no scope. Yeah, you have a question, Lina?
Ma'am, how do we take care of?
Your voice is breaking.
How do we take care of
Why don't you text it?
HR person? Hello.
Yeah.
Is it better
So
now?
are you trying to say how do we have
Is-
incentives for HR person, etc.?
No. How do we take care of someone in HR who misses on compliance deadlines, due to which penalties incur? So is variable pay, linking it with variable pay?
Absolutely. Like for example, think of an organization where there is manufacturing organization where there is safety, health and hazards, SHO we call it as, there is incentive for safety, absolutely 0% accident. So there you can actually link it so that the person becomes very, very cautious. And depending if the penalties are very high, then your incentive also to that extent there where he becomes very cautious. For example, HR business partner and recruiter. Can I have a similar incentive plan for an HR business partner and a recruiter? Because the recruiter is more dynamic, it is more operational, it is all with what numbers. But there, if I say, okay, 20 numbers, if you close, there's incentive plan, what will the person do? He will focus only on the numbers without focusing on the quality. And after 3 months, you will see that, hey, there are so many people who have tried it. So what are the design considerations? What are we talking about now? What are the design considerations? When you are designing an incentive plan, what are some of the things you need to do? First and the foremost is that intent.
Ma'am, I had one query before we go into that. Ma'am, when we have designed, suppose individual level and project level incentive plan for sales also, can the plans overlap? Or we can retrieve one of the plans that incentive because we are giving the other incentive.
1 second. What did you say, Preeti?
Ma'am, we have just now discussed about a team incentive and individual incentives for different levels. So I'm saying, and for example, a sales personnel can have an individual level incentive plan or basis the growth plan or anything attached to it, and as well as the normal performance level incentive plan. Probably the performance linked incentive that we usually give away as a part of a compensation.
Okay, so because it's breaking, but I could get it. So what you're saying is, are you saying that can a person get both incentive and, I mean, you can get 2 or 3 kinds of incentive? A, in a sales, you are giving it, if you are selling 100 units, you will get this much. If you are selling 150, you will get this much incentive. If you are selling 200, so there is some kind of a standard, predetermined standard. Okay, so he knows exactly if he's going to sell a Maruti, how much of commission will I get? If I sell a car with a higher value, how much of commission will I get? That's a part. At an organization level, if you are going to make a profit, and you are saying I'm giving profit sharing of 5% or 2% or 1%, so that then is given to everybody. Okay, now you are saying, will a person get both individual incentive and also a team incentive? I'm just coming to that. So it all depends on if the nature of the work is such that the department has decided that this is an individual, if he tries to sell this units, okay, but there is some other nature of work where there is a team incentive because it requires a team to operate and close that, then he will be entitled to it. But typically what happens, salespeople, because that role is individual, so it is primarily an individual incentive plan. Okay, but again, when it comes to, say, for example, on the shop floor at a departmental level, they have to do something like a gain sharing or something like, a software development, which they have to do it in a time, then they will actually have team incentives. Why? Because this cannot be achieved without all the people coming together, because everybody has to give some kind of an input to get this outcome. So it starts with the end in the mind. Will this goal be achieved by a single person? Is the design of this job is such that, or will it be achieved by 2 people? For example, I think I gave you this example last time. For example, so I was coming to that, the design of the job. When I talk about, let's say there is a IT software company where there are 2 people. One is a sales guy and other is a service person. So the Pratisha is, putting all the software into the laptop, assembling it, and Preeti is selling it. Okay, you are able to sell 10 laptops because Pratishuti is able to assemble 10. Now I have a great plan. My sales manager came, hey, we are going to have an incentive plan. So 10 or so if you sell anything more than 10, for every laptop you will get 1,000 rupees. You are really excited, sir. So you will put the pressure on Pratishuti and say, do it fast, do it fast. For 1-2 days, she will say, okay, fine, I will do. I'll come early, I'll go evening. But every time she'll say, what am I getting? So she will say, hey, Preeti, I will teach you how to do this, assembling and all. Why don't you assemble it and then you start? But where is the time for you? But what if I were to say, for every laptop, you will get 600 and she will get 400. She will come early, she will leave late, and she won't tell you to do the assembly. Are you getting me? Team incentive. So will I be wise by designing only individual incentive plan, or should I say team incentive plan?
Team incentive.
Because the work is related, the design of the work is related, that the Pratishuti's input is directly impacting your outcome.
Because we usually a compensation package, when we are giving to any individual joinee, we include that variable pay as like a performance based incentive we decide, but we don't find the parameters basis which
what are parameters? Predetermined, what I say as defined metrics or indices, which have to be very, very clear. What is that you want to achieve? If I say recruitment intent, I said, you close 20 numbers, Pratishuti will say, okay, I'll close 20 numbers, that's it. But after 3 months, 50% have attrited, but you have not put a quality parameter in that. The right kind of people, right? With specific saying that this is the experience, this is what it is, this is what it is. Vandana, I haven't heard you at all. I hope you are with us and I hope you are understanding everything. Yes, can you put a thumbs up? Yes. Any questions, Vandana?
So far, no questions.
No questions. All right, great. So is that very clear, guys? So because you have 2 projects to do, so that's why I want to cover this quickly. So intent is very important. All right. Then after intent, you have to decide on who are the people whom you want to include. So I will actually say who are the people you want to participate in that incentive plan. Okay. Then amount of percentage of incentive amount, because you can't have any amount. Like for example, for senior people, you will have 40%, 50% as a variable. Variable is what? Contingent. That means you are not going to be assured, guaranteed. It depends on certain factors. So you have to be very clear as to what are those factors which you want to really him to, so every organization today, variable pay is becoming very, very, I think a global phenomena where 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago, it wasn't used. But today, right across the organization, all employees are in for variable pay, so that work more, get more. That's how people can get motivated. Okay, because if you put more in base, there is a risk. What if they don't perform? But here you are saying work more or perform, get money. So that is why at every level you have variable pay. Now, what is very important here is how are you going to the evaluation. Evaluation parameters are very important. You will notice that most of the organization, they will design incentive plans, but what if you ask any employee, I don't know how they evaluate my incentive. I don't think it is fair. So if you design an incentive plan with clearly the evaluation metrics there, for example, if you are designing an incentive plan for a sales guy or for a recruiter, whatever be it, if you design it in terms of saying this is what you will be assessed on, these are the evaluation parameters, which depends more on the intent, then what happens? It will be achieved. Otherwise, what happens? There's a huge gap between what you think intent and what is the outcome. Are you with me? Huh? But of course, then in designing, you also have to have all those things in very, very clear, whether the probationers are entitled or whether the people, your policy in terms of the incentive policy, whether people on probation, people on resignation, and when are you going to pay? Is it a quarterly, monthly, or half yearly, or annually? Because you can't have for all levels being paid at annually, right? Because what is the purpose of a variable pay plan? It is to motivate people. It is to reward and recognize people, right? So if that be the objective, then typically the benchmark is that for lower levels, month on month, you do the payout. For typically, it's called a VPP, variable pay plan, payout. So for managers and above, it's quarterly, and for senior people, it is annual. Because for the senior people, you're also talking about what kind of an incentive plan. You're also talking about what profit sharing. You're talking about ESOPs, etc. Because you want more commitment from them. Of course, in today's organization, even startups are giving a lot of ESOPs because you want to attract the best talent and saying, hey, you become my, owner of the organization. So you are actually developing that entrepreneurship, right? So what, if you have noticed, you have a detailed kind of notes I've seen gone through what Merit has given. And you have to do a small assignment, which is very interesting, of a retail, how are these salespeople being paid? What is the intent? What is the amount of participation? And then what are the evaluation parameters, etc. So when you do this in your neighborhood retail store or anywhere, you will actually then understand this entire ethos of the variable pay plan. Okay, guys. And so you can see what are the SIT, what it is called, short-term incentive plans. Then MIT, medium incentive plans. And then LIT, long-term incentive plans. Depending on the life cycle of the organization, also organizations strategize as to what kind of incentive plans I should have. Essentially, to hold on to people so that they work better, to motivate, to reward people. Because ultimately, if there's a young startup organization, then you want to have a lot of short-term incentive plans, because they want to really see a lot of money. So they will really work very hard towards that. Okay, like for example, you are in a growth up thing, and recruiters have to get the best kind of workforce, So what will you do? You'll really have good incentive plans for your recruiters, so that they can actually then see how they will be able to get the best at the least cost from the best channels, because it all depends on the highest yield from which channel, right? So this was in essence giving you a little in detail about salary survey, and also what individual equity, what we call it as variable pay plans. What I would also request you, please have time, go through it, do the assignment. And if you have any questions, kindly text them to me, so that your doubts, anything you have, can be clarified. Okay, guys, any questions? We can still do 5 minutes of questions. Leena, but please ensure you are audible. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. I just got disconnected last time. I don't know how.
No problem.
Ma'am, so currently in my organization, we have, so when we recruit people, they already have variable pay. So we just offer little higher and we recruit. So currently variable pay is linked with individuals and not the positions. And I want to link those two positions, so that if I am doing position A and position B is vacant for 3 months and I am doing that work also, the performance pay of that position should be given to me.
There is very little data on which you have given, because, like you just said, people we recruit, we will just add 10 to 15% and give it. Now, I do not know whether it is for your operation people, or because, you have a certain pay policy for your HR person. The person comes at 20 lakhs and typically your variable pay is 5% or 10%. Now you just can't add 15%, and that means you are actually differentiating between the same positions, one person having 10% variable pay and another person having 15% variable pay for the similar job you are doing. You getting me?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So this is insufficient data to actually tell that whether you are doing the right thing or not right. Because
no, ma'am, the question is, what should be done? Should we link variable pay with position designation or the individual while recruiting?
No. While recruiting, it depends on, first of all, you take a typical function. Supposing, say for example, you are recruiting a HR manager. Say for example, easier. Okay, HR, you are recruiting a finance manager, right? Now, finance manager, you are recruiting. Now his salary is at, say, 25 lakhs. Now, in your organization, finance manager is a position, but he will be at a certain grade. No? He can be at a grade 3 or he can be at a grade 4. Now you have to look at all these positions which are in grade 3, grade 4. What percentage of variable pay are they coming? No, you can't just, he must be at a particular grade, because typically variable pays are also set on the basis of grades. That is at grade 3, so much a percentage, grade 4, certain percentage. Or if in your organization, it is based on the positions, but typically by and large, universal practices based on the grades. Having said that, but if you are actually employing a production person, okay, now you need to look at production. So are you having a different plan for production people, because they are the ones who are operation people? Because in most of the organizations, operation people, like say even in IT, ITS, the operation people will have different incentive plans. The support function will have different incentive plan. You may ask me why, because the nature of operation is different. A call center guy taking number of calls, incentive plan, number of calls dropped, etc., individual plan totally. But maybe in a call center, that assistant manager or a manager who's not taking direct calls, his incentive plan will be little different. Okay. So depending on the nature of your organization. So there is nothing like, a simple straight kind of a straight jacketed kind of a policy. Okay. So you need to go back and check. And if in case I need more data on this for this. Okay. Because simply just saying, hey, we are going to increase 10-15% is insufficient data. Then I will ask you how is it working? How are the people? What is it? Because people will then see, inequity, right? Because essentially what are we doing? Internal equity for bringing parity in the jobs. External equity to become very competitive. If I'm not competitive, I won't get people in the organization. Right? But that doesn't mean that I will just pay, because without knowing if I'm paying more or less, how will I know? I need to know what's the market paying. Only then I will know whether I'm paying more or high or less. Got it, Preeti?
Ma'am, back to Leena's question also, if I can just stretch it a little bit. So, as a HR professional, we'll have to look at the administrative challenges also in making such individualistic or customized approach. And probably, that's the balance that we will have to even look at.
Can you come again?
Because if going at each department or each job level, then it may add to more of a administrative complexities.
Again, it's dropping. So are you trying to say that it may add to the administrative costs, right?
Cost complexity for HR to administer those, while it may sound very cost effective and very much attuned to the how it ideally should be, but coming to practical aspect of it, how should one balance that? Make it much
The
more
mantra to be very successful is to list out all those strategic things in your organization. And like, for example, typically some of the generic things are increasing production, right? Okay. You have X amount of workforce. Now you are paying a certain wage cost. Now the workforce, how do you? Preeti is different from Shankar. Both of you are working as workers, but you are working at an X salary. Even he's also working at an X salary in the same job, but his ability to produce 150 units is more than your ability to produce just 100 units. Now, how do I ensure that Shankar, who's a person who can actually stretch himself so that he can produce more and get more money? Okay, so one is simple straight jacketed. I want to hit the production target. Keep it simple. Directly, the incentive policies is so simple to understand that I'm keeping it directly to the production. That's one aspect. So that means it's not complex. More you produce, I've actually set a target, how many the least, and over and above, I'll give a ramp up kind of a thing and say, this is what it is. Simple to operate. Okay. Your question was if I'm going to make it very, very complex. Okay. If you are going to add, one is how do you make it complex by adding too many things for one incentive policy, which is a bad thing, because you should not add too many things for one incentive. Okay. Because then nothing gets done.
Ma'am, the thing was, what I'm asking is for every department, considering that every department's elasticity of the job is
okay. Because it's dropping. I'm assuming something. So you are saying for every department, if you have an incentive plan, things like that. So typically organizations will not have too many things. One is your operations or productions. It could be an R&D, it could be manufacturing. Typically you will have incentive plans for driving that. Take for example, an IT industry. All the businesses which are running, all the verticals, they will have some incentive or the other, production plans. Okay. For the HR, finance, IT support will have an incentive plan for that, which is annual, which is just 10% of their base salary or 15% of their base salary. All right. So, but if need be, you can always have one or two different incentive plans. If need be, if that works out. But there is nothing like sacrosanct about that I cannot have different kind of incentive plans. As long you think that there is an objective to accomplish, and this is unique for the department. You can have a separate incentive plan for R&D, because your R&D in any IT department, or even for the product development or pharma, which is very, very critical. Now that can't be same for everybody. R&D will have a different incentive plan. Now you can't say I'm having too many incentive plans, so I won't have one. You will have to have. But at the same time, complexity will arise only when you're listing too many things in one incentive plan. But executing one incentive plan for one objective or two objectives will not make it complex. That's the point I'm trying to make. Organizations where they get confused when they're adding too many things for one incentive plan. Now you can have for every department different incentive plans. No? Typically in a manufacturing organization, what happens on the shop floor? You have that something called the piece rate system. How many units are you making? Over and above, you are making units. Now you may say that somebody is making one different unit. Another person in another department is making another unit. His target rates may be different and your target rates may be different, because their time may be maybe a longer time here. You can't have same standard for everything. Did you get me? Because the nature of work will be different. Are you with me, guys? Preeti, you're still having certain clarification. And if you have further, you can always call me up and find out.
Thank you, ma'am.
You are feel free, guys, because this is a short time. So if you have any questions, anything, and specific to your organization, something which you're working on, and or something which you feel in your organization, you can always call up and seek clarifications. Okay. And you have 2 assignments. Vilma will explain to you very clearly, and she will send you mails. Okay. And then next session, if you have any questions, write your doubts or whatever much before that, so that we can, even if we have to extend it by half an hour, we'll do that and take up all the questions. Okay. Take care. And what is that one thing you have learned? Let me just ask only 2 people. What is the takeaway for today, Shankar?
The percentiles, like where if I'm actually basing my pay policy, what I really wanted to, where I wanted to be, and secondly on the compa ratios.
Compa ratios. Okay.
Where I wanted to be. The ideal is 60-40. You said 60% below the median and 40% above. Ideally,
right.
Not a thumb rule kind of, but these are 2 important factors, things that we actually discussed today.
And Pratishuti?
Ma'am, first thing is how to read the market data.
Yeah.
So that I learned, and then how to map that market data with your internal organization.
So for you all to be really very good at it, I want you all to do one thing. If you just open the internet, you will get Kelly, you will get Monster, free salary survey data. Just go through your salary survey, free salary survey data, published data, and have a look at it. You will get an idea as to what are these percentiles, what are the benchmark positions they have taken, what are the companies they have taken, then how have they actually then analyzed the data. Okay, simple. You will just get it like that then. Okay. All right, guys. So have a nice weekend of whatever is left. And good luck to all of you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Bye. Vilma, you want to say something to them?
Thank you all.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye, guys.
Can you just send something on the compa ratio you're trying to show us? Maybe.
Sure. Who's that? Jay wants
Shankar.
it.
Shankar, ma'am.
Okay. Sure. Absolutely. We will do that.
That literature will help us to reflect back on the learnings of the today.
Sure. Absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mama.